right. G'day, mate. What's your name?
My name is Chen.
And what do you do, Aaron?
I'm a stand-up comedian.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Crowdworkcast. My name's Andrew Barnett. Thank you so much for joining me. Great episode for you today. The great Chen is joining me. Absolute champion, one of the real, apart from being hilarious, one of the real good blokes of comedy, Aaron. He's unfortunately for Australia heading over to New York soon, which you'll hear him talk about. So if you do get the opportunity before August in Australia to see him, go see him. He's very, very funny. If you're in the United States, find him. Go watch him. He's absolutely awesome. You can see his special on YouTube. It's called If Weren't Filmed, Nobody Would Believe. Which is an absolutely hilarious title and an absolutely hilarious special. So search for that on YouTube. If you want to follow him on Instagram, he is Chenny Lifestyle on Instagram. Other than that, if you are enjoying the podcast, please do like, subscribe wherever you are finding it. Leave a review if you would be so kind. Preferably a 5-star or a good review, but who am I to tell you what to do? Other than that, you can give me a follow, Andrew Barnett Comedy on Instagram, and other than that, enjoy this episode. This is my chat with Chen. Stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
I like that so a lot of people have gone with, like a lot of comedians, just go with the general, I'm a comedian. Mm-hmm. But you specifically see yourself as a stand-up
comedian. I don't know. I've been thinking about it a lot, but that's the best one, stand-up.
Stand-up.
And they know immediately you're not a TikToker, you know?
Yeah. Well, you've done acting, you've done a range of stuff, but stand-up's obviously, is that the passion?
Yeah, I think that's the bread and butter. That's the passion. Like that, it's my favorite one for sure. It's so immediate and nice. Is it your favorite?
Yeah. I didn't realize how much it was my favorite until I spent a bit of time doing a lot of other stuff, which I really enjoyed, but then got back to stand up much more. And it's just like I like having a variation. Yeah. But stand up's the one that's the most, like you said, it's immediate. It's fun, like it's fun, it's there, it's the one you can mess around with more in terms of if you've got stuff that you're doing that's not going, you're in control of changing it and getting it to work. And it's, I don't know, I kind of like that.
The variation is good. It's like I took 6 months off at the start of this year, end of last year type thing, and I was just thinking like stand up was the one that I missed. Just like acting is fun and it's cool to see it, but a lot of it is you're waiting around the whole day and waiting to say like one line, and then you say it 4 times, and then you've spent like 8 hours doing just that. It's so it can be a drag, I reckon.
Yeah, and the thing with that too is I suppose when you're not in charge of the edit, you're not in charge of you don't have any control over the final product either. Like you might have, like you do it 4 times, you might have your favorite one. Yeah. But then, there's 8 other people who we like it the second way you said it. So, I don't know, like that total sort of responsibility / control you have for your stand-up is much, much more appealing to me.
For sure.
That's not to say if there's acting work out there, I'm actually I've just done a couple of like little self-tapes for things. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those ones where, like, I don't know, you're obviously acting on Fisk and done a few other things. Was that an audition thing, or was that we want the Chen of it all?
Well, Fisk was, I think that they had already thought of me, but they still sent an audition across, and I just did it like in 1 or 2 goes. Yep. Thinking like, I'll just do it, and if they don't like it, they don't like it. But they liked it. It was good. So glad to do it. It's like if you realize that acting's not your main thing, then you can be a bit like picky with it. And Fisk was
that's such a great character too. Yeah, like I can see that in terms of, like you say, they probably had you in mind because that is that it's such a character that suits you. And it's that must be a fun character to play
Yeah.
in that. So how was that? Like did you realize that Fisk was going to be like? Did you have a feeling it was going to be as successful as it is?
I don't know. Like, I always knew that Kitty was awesome, and like meeting the cast, like Julia and Marty Sheargold, is like it's pretty star-studded. Like, you
Yeah.
got these veterans and probably millionaires. Like, I think it's gonna be okay.
There's the advice from Aaron Chen. Always work with millionaires.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, she's so funny. The scripts were funny as well. Do you know Marty?
Yeah, I know Marty
Yeah.
as well. I actually did a bit of. I opened for Marty a few times with when he was doing his tour through Sydney and that. When he got back into stand up after a long time off.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's absolute champion.
He's so funny. But that part apparently it was. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but apparently it was written for. It's called Ray, and it's written for a comedian called Ray Badron. And
Oh, really?
he did the audition and he couldn't like do it. They were like, you couldn't even play yourself.
Oh man!
But that could be a rumor.
That
But
could be
it's
a
definitely a rumor I've heard.
Wow. I'll have to get Ray on the podcast
to defend himself.
To defend himself. But you know what? Let's slander him at this point anyway. That's a nightmare when you can't play yourself.
That's a classic Ray story as well.
It's made more believable if you know Ray too.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's the kind of thing that had happened to Ray. Oh man. So working with those guys, yeah, Marty Sheargold's obviously he was so generous when I was doing those because I was opening for him. It started out when he was doing a bunch of shows at the store, and then he ended out that sold so well. He ended up doing the Enmore a couple of times, and I remember the first time at the Enmore, like I'd been doing maybe 7 to 9 minutes at the store just because the tight turnarounds there, so you don't really have long to do it. And I said, "Oh, same thing, 7 minutes." He goes, "Oh, mate, we're at the Enmore. No, take at least 10 to 12. Like, enjoy this. When do we get to play?" That's what he said to me. When do we get to play it? Well, you get to play it now, Marty. This is a sold out Enmore that you've sold out. But thank you. Like, you're so generous with, like, mate, just enjoy this. Like,
and that was fun.
Oh, man, so fun. 12 minutes.
Because that's, like, I feel like Australians were used to opening for people and it's like 5 to 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
But one time I opened for Ronnie here and he's like doing it in America and he was like, do 20. And I was like, oh, that's a stretch. Like at that point I was like, I didn't even know like if I had 20 off the top of my head. And so I did 20 and then the 20 was like a loose 20. So I think he went to the bathroom at the 20 mark. So I was like vamping after 20. It was crazy.
That shows he's got a lot of faith in you though, doesn't it?
Maybe too much.
Mate, Ronnie, what a champion, Ronnie Chen.
Yeah.
So how long ago was that you think you didn't have 20? Because you've been doing stand-up a while and I would have thought you've had 20 for a long time.
Yeah, like I had 20, but it's just like when you haven't done 20 in a while and you... Yeah.
I don't know about you. I feel like...
And I was prepared to do 10, so I was like out back like, oh, what bits do I have?
I don't have any more stand-up.
Yeah.
Man, I get that feeling. Like if I've been doing a bunch of like 20s or 10s or 15s or whatever, in my head, that's all the stand-up I have.
Yeah.
Like I get to the point where, I'll do... Like I've got one later this week where I've got to do... I'm doing a golf function, like a golf day thing where the guy's like, 20 to 25. And I'm like, that'll be fine. Like, that's absolute max, I think, because these guys, I had a look at the run sheet, they start golf at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
And it'll be one of those drinking golf days.
Yeah.
And then I go on at 8:30 at night. So
that's crazy.
You don't want much more than 20, 25 minutes that you're not going to hold anyone's attention.
Are you doing golf gear or... like, how did you get looped in with these guys, or was it just a job that came in?
Oh, it's a job that came in. I actually got this one through another, like I'd done another corporate, and this guy was there, and he goes, "Oh, we do a bunch of these events. Would you?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, man, work. I'm happy to do work." But there'll be a bunch of. I think this one partly was that there'll be a bunch of rugby league people there, which Playing golf.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I've done a few of these sort of things now, like sportsman's lunches, that sort of stuff. There's a bit of a not.
Are you good with the rugby league, like
crowds?
events and crowds and stuff?
Yeah, I'm used to them.
Yeah.
So it's
Are they rowdy or are they actually nice?
no, they're not overly rowdy. Like they can be, but it's that kind of thing where if they are a bit rowdy, that just getting on the front foot, like giving a guy a bit of a bake at the start. And they're like, they all love that. Like it's generally everyone's in a good mood. They're feeling pretty like, you know, this is their big party sort of thing. So they're not too bad, but you like if you get it too late, like it's just and after about 20 minutes, if they've been drinking for a long time, that's just blokes need to use the bathroom. Like you just see blokes sitting in their seat and then moving around and stuff. But
I'd be nervous, I reckon. Like it's just like jocks you want to impress.
That's so funny that I don't know, like it is and it isn't. Like you'd be surprised. They'd sit and like, especially a lot of those guys that would have seen like they like everyone thinks, oh, you know, that you go into it. Like I remember talking to someone about the difference between doing rugby union lunch and a rugby league lunch. And I was like, it's the same people. They're just the jobs they're going back to afterwards. Like the jobs they've taken the afternoon off from are different. Like league, they're more likely to be tradies. Union, they're more likely to be bankers. Like it's not, but they're the exact same blokes. Like you see, like, you know, you see blokes sculling a beer, like singing and sculling a beer. And you're like, oh yeah, you work at Macquarie Bank.
It's different songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're the exact same as the guy who comes in and, fixes the plumbing in the bank. Like they're not any different. So it's that, but I don't know, like at the end of the day, they're just sitting there going, oh, as long as you get introduced as a comedian, they're expecting you to do some comedy. So, you know, and especially nowadays I think people are more aware of different types of comedy because so much of it's online. Yeah. That it's not it's not that thing where like, oh yeah, where's Carl Barron? Like, so it's all right. Like, it's all right. But yeah, there is a bit of a trick to it. Like in terms of just, making sure you're, confident and.
That's sick. I never did a corporate before, I reckon. Like, one close thing was I did like this Chinese New Year event when I was like 1 year in because my dad knew the person who was running. Like, this is the only time I've ever experienced nepotism. It was this like random Chinese New Year event, and it was like everyone could tell that I was like some kid who got the job because I knew like I was the son of someone.
But a year in, how old? You would have been like 15, 16, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I was like 17 or something like that. And I had to host alongside this other Chinese woman who was like big in the Australian Chinese broadcasting world. So she held it down, and I was like, asked her if I could do a joke at the end of like each of her paragraphs. And she was like, I guess you can. Yeah. It just bombed every single one of these jokes. Like people were like, what is this kid doing?
It's so funny how like it seems so simple. Like comedy seems so simple, like in a lot of ways, but you actually need, even just without the right bit of context, it just seems odd. Even a good joke will just seem like, well, why is he
just
talking
saying
about
weird
that?
things?
Yeah. Why is he all of a sudden talking about that? That's weird. Yeah. So big in the Australian Chinese broadcasting community. Is there like I love this sort of stuff. Like you don't realise, especially nowadays where with the internet everything can be so specific. Yeah. Is there a big Australian Chinese broadcasting community?
I think like in general there is kind of, because it's like before the internet, you just had radio, and it was like SBS radio was a thing. So every like ethnic community will listen to their time slot on like SBS radio or other like broadcasters like that. And my dad used to work for like a Chinese newspaper. Oh yeah. And they had all different like.
Which
types.
one?
It was called Chinese Herald or Sydney Chinese Day. One of those. Like I get the names mixed up because there was a few he like sold like real estate ads into like the Chinese newspaper. So he'd go to like real estate companies and just bring in Chinese ads. So it's like my dad had all these friends and they were all Lebanese people. I'm like, why do you know so many Lebanese? It was because they're all like real estate agents in like Belmore and stuff like that.
That's so funny. That's one of those things you realise like Yeah, that's one of the beautiful things about like a place like Sydney,
Yeah.
where you do have so many different cultures, and you're like, how did these people end up
Yeah.
hanging out?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, did you grew up in Sydney?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
I grew up in Asquith, which
Asquith.
is past Hornsby,
Yeah,
just a
right up on the
suburb
north.
Yeah.
Right, so, like, literally the opposite end of Sydney to where we are now.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
So grew up like brothers, sisters. What were we?
One older half sister.
One older half sister.
Yeah.
And is dad like your old man? Was he born here or is he?
He was born in China.
He was born in China.
Yeah. The whole generation above me was from China.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you speak Mandarin.
Mandarin, yeah.
Wow. Was that what you mostly spoke at home as a kid?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I spoke to my sister in English and I spoke to my dad in Mandarin.
Wow.
Yeah.
That amazes me. Like I kind of wish I knew another language.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever like do you use it much now, or is it still like? When
I
you
like
talk
to
the
use
older
it. I
ladies?
show it off and stuff, like ordering at a Chinese restaurant, where it's like, even if there's the smallest opportunity to use it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the person can speak English, but it's easier for them.
Now there is the white person rumor that if you do order in Mandarin, you get better stuff and better service in a Chinese restaurant. Is that true, or is that a
Maybe
that a
better
myth?
service, but better stuff would just be because you know
what to
better
order.
stuff. But
Yeah.
like better service would just be because they would find it easier chatting to you or whatever. But like sometimes not. We went to like a Chinese restaurant the other day with the family, like because my wife thought that decor was cool in that Chinese restaurant, but it was like our family was the only Chinese family there, and then like every other family was white family, and they were like could not cater to us and our excessive needs.
So this is like the old because I grew up in country, and country Chinese was
Yeah.
very much
Yeah.
the what they've got frozen peas and
Where'd you
carrots
grow up?
in the place called Corowa. This is sort
Yeah.
of west of Albury on
Okay.
the Murray River,
Nice.
and it was always
Victoria.
yeah
I didn't
right
know
on the
that.
border. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
was we were down there like until we moved. I finished year 10 down there and did
Mm-hmm.
year 11 and 12. We moved to Newcastle because my old man was a school teacher.
Yeah.
So, we were down there from
Nice.
basically when I was in kindergarten to
Yeah.
year 10. So,
And then you moved to Sydney.
yeah, we were in Newcastle, finished high
yeah.
school in Newcastle, hung around there for a bit and then moved to Sydney.
Yeah.
So, I've been, like, I always say, like, depending on who you're talking to, like, sort of think of myself as partly from Newcastle,
Mm-hmm.
partly from Coral, but realistically, the place I've lived the longest is now just Sydney.
Sydney, yeah.
So, but I suppose growing, like where you grow up, I think sometimes has a big imprint on you too.
For sure, yeah.
So, but yeah, I remember I used to do a joke about it on stage about how we didn't really have a, I didn't feel like country, that idea that country people are racist. And I
Yeah.
didn't feel growing up we were, because we just didn't have people to be racist towards.
Yeah.
But because we had the Chinese family that ran the Chinese restaurant, so you're not really, you know what I mean? You're not really being racist towards them, because no one thinks they're stealing your job.
No,
Like,
they got their own niche, their
actually, we had
essential service.
I remember we had because we had the top Chinese shop and the bottom Chinese shop, but then I remember the family of one of the Chinese shops. It might have been in the interim because they were very rarely two of them going at the same time. But one of the families were here illegally. The parents were here illegally, and so it was a big thing, and it became a thing in the town where the town then, because their kids had gone to school with all of our kids, and they'd just grown up in Australia. They were born here, so it was there was a big, the town rallied around a petition to not, to basically not let them get sent home, sent back to China. So
wow,
it was
that's the opposite of
yeah,
discrimination.
yeah, well, but that's it, man. You feed a town good Chinese food for 15 years, they're going to stick by you.
Did those two families have a beef?
I don't think so. I think because I remember the second family came. I must have been in primary school, because I remember they had two sons, and the oldest one came to kindergarten, but they turned up. They were like basically, came. I don't know how you end up in a very small country town straight from China, but so the kids didn't speak English, and it was a bit of a fascination for all the kids at primary school. This kid rocking up, and so everyone trying to talk to him, and this so they were a fair bit younger than me then. I must have been in year 5 or so, but I remember this kid in kindergarten, and that was the big Simon So. I think his name was his name. I still remember it. It's one, those things that stick with you. So that would have been like 91. So he's a grown man, probably, living a whole life now. Yeah. But yeah, I remember that pretty vividly. But that was after. So yeah, I wonder if there was an overlap between the two families. But yeah,
interesting.
It was it was an interesting little country town.
Yeah,
that's why I sometimes do. I do get frustrated at some of the stereotypes around that sort of stuff. It's like, no, man, when I just remember everyone liking those families. Because but you're also a kid, so there's probably a lot and there could have been stuff I didn't see.
Yeah.
But in general, it was all positivity from what I saw. So. But so you grew up in Asquith. You got like a older half sister, man. So when did you? Because I remember meeting you. You must have been were you 15 when you started comedy?
Yeah, at the tail end of 15.
Tail end of 15.
Yeah.
So how did you? Obviously, parents are immigrants. The stereotype there is they want often the education, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
How did you broach that I want to do stand up comedy? Did your parents have any concept of what you were talking about? Were they familiar with stand up as a thing? Because even
you don't know what it is as a parent.
Exactly. Well,
if your kids told you, you'd know what's
what
that.
Are you talking about? This doesn't sound like a real job. No, but I just think that even when I was 15, it wouldn't have occurred to me that it was something you could do as a job or whatever.
Yeah.
We just knew what you'd see the gala on TV, and that's what you thought comedy was.
Yeah.
So how did because your dad, I think the first time I met you, we were at the Roxbury for that Comedy on the Rocks competition.
Yeah.
And I remember you coming over and saying hello to me and Andrew Wolf, and then you said, I've got to go sit with my dad now.
Yeah.
So obviously that's reasonably supportive that dad's got to take you to your gigs. How did that start?
How did I start doing stand up?
Yeah, how did you broach it with your old man, and how were they were your parents just supportive from the start? They were
well, I grew up with just my dad, and he was always busy, pretty hands off type of thing, do whatever you got to do. And I was at selective school, so he was already pretty happy. He was oh, I'm sure you'll
box ticked.
Yeah, you'll end up somewhere all right. But stand-up was just a hobby, an extra. He would have seen it as an extracurricular, that type of thing. I was playing soccer on the weekends, doing stand-up every now and then, that type of thing. So I was doing speeches at school, and then that was fun. I got the buzz from doing that because I did all jokes in it. And then I just Googled how do you do it outside of school, and then class clowns came up. I did that, and then after that, most people just stopped doing stand up until the next year, and they do class clowns again because they see it as a school thing. But I was keen to keep going, so I found the Roxbury, which was a competition, and just signed up to do that and met you there pretty early on. I think the first gig that I ever did, it was Dave Eastgate hosting, and then it was just crazy. And I was watching this all with my dad, and then Andrew Hastings was on, and then Joe Rank was on. There's all these weird open micers and stuff like that. And I thought that I didn't watch enough stand up to know what was good or bad, so I thought I just didn't get the stuff that I didn't find funny. I thought it was just too smart for me or something. But it turns out that there is bad comedy and stuff. But I'm watching this all with my dad, and one act threw condoms out into the crowd or something like that.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah, and then it was just a drive home, and it was the condom thing was interesting.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah. But it was supportive, yeah.
That's fantastic that you got that he was willing to drive because even just logistically, I know when my kids pick up a new thing, and I try and be supportive of everything, you know, when they've got an interest or whatever.
Yeah.
But just logistically, you know,
Yeah.
running kids around's a pain in the ass, let alone like, you know, I think that was a Wednesday night at the Roxbury.
Yeah.
It'd like, especially if you had a few open micers run the light, it could go late.
Yeah.
Man, Eastgate, that would have been an eye opener too. Like that energy in that place.
Yeah.
It was
he's crazy.
He is crazy.
Such a small room as well. He's playing like rock music.
Yeah. Was he doing the thing where the dragon?
Yeah. All that
I used to
stuff.
love seeing that at small venues because it was so ridiculous. I remember when we met you, that's what Wolfie said to me when after you went, because you were like 15 and, you know, really polite. And then as you walked away, Wolfie just looks at me and goes, mate, if he's even half good, we are fucked.
Was Wolfie funny when he started?
Yeah, Wolfie was funny, but Wolfie would, man.
Because Wolfie's incredible now.
Oh, yeah, he's always had that ability to be, like, he always had really interesting ideas. He didn't always get the... Like, it's like anyone. You're just getting the rubber to the road.
Yeah.
But he used to like be doing real well and then see something or misread something in the crowd and think they had.
You guys hate me.
Yeah. And he just nosedive a set.
Yeah.
Nah, whatever. just be like, oh, man.
I think he does that less now, but he still thinks they hate him, but he just doesn't break on stage. He comes off and is like, they hated me. What are you talking about? You destroyed.
Mate, he's one of the... I think the last time I worked with him, I haven't seen him in ages, but the last time I worked with him, we were doing a gig in Sydney where I was hosting and he was closing. And he comes up on stage and he does I'll give it up for your MC, Andrew Barnett. He goes, oh, geez, doesn't he seem like a nice bloke? Such a lovely bloke on stage. He must be a fucking monster at home. It got me so... no one's that nice.
That's so Wolfie.
Oh, mate, it was the perfect
dragging everyone down.
Exactly. But it was the perfect, like, set the context for this is what you're going to hear. This is my perspective on the world. Oh, man. So So how long, so you've been doing stand-up now for, what's that, 10, 12 years?
Something like 12 years,
yeah. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
And
you too, right?
Yeah.
13?
13, 2000. I did mic in hand, like, in November of 2009, but then did Raw 2010.
Yeah.
Which is, I was actually talking to Heggy last week. Him and I started at the same time. I remember seeing him then. Talk about a guy that was just funny from the start.
Out of the gates, yeah.
Oh, man. Like, he just had that perspective. Because we were in that Raw final, and it was like, you know, there's Crookshank and Kappa and Hing was in it. There was
in that final.
Yeah.
That's stacked.
I know. It was crazy. I remember just being, because it was like my fourth or fifth gig. And I was sitting there watching going, okay, you know, like I knew that I wasn't in the conversation for the thing, but I was like, okay, I'm not too far behind where a lot of these guys are. Yeah. And because I think Crookshank had maybe been doing it maybe 12 months at that stage, so not much longer or whatever, and he was funny. But then Heggy came on and it was just daylight between him and the next.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. Wow. It was just, because it just was.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh, he must have been doing it a while.
It was just like first gig was Raw, right?
Yep. Yeah. I said, man, that was like I remember talking to him a few years later. I was like, hey, I remember that Raw final. I said, that was like my fourth gig. He goes, yeah, same. And I was like, you're a prick. Like that. And it's so funny. Like you see people like for years that'll be like, because you were very, like, I remember my first impression of you was you were funny from the start. You had a perspective and you had very fully formed jokes right from the get-go. But then there's other people you see that are like they're fine just sort of on the bubble for ages and ages, and then all of a sudden they just click in and they're totally in control of what they're doing. It always fascinates me when people just jump levels.
Yeah. I think it's good though, right? To take your time and like, because you need it regardless, even if you do like spike early and stuff.
I think so. I think that's one of the, like, you know, talk about like, you know, I think you don't realize at the time, but
Mm-hmm.
it's better to get opportunities later because you're actually ready to
grasp them.
yeah
Yeah.
and make the most of them. Like, you know,
But I guess Hagee's different because he already he was seemed like experienced enough life before he even
Yeah.
started stand up.
which is also that's also a gift too because he did start later.
Yeah.
That you've got life experience to draw on.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I was always thought about, because I started I think at 27, maybe 28, and I was always jealous watching like guys like you and that, and I always think, geez, like they're like, it's so good they've started so young. But then I realized, like, I would not have at 15, I would have not known how to write jokes properly. I would have had nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
And even before, like, I reckon I'm so glad I was married and settled before I started, because I would literally have been, if I'd started at like 20 and, you know, single, I literally would have been just seeing, oh, there's a pretty girl, I wonder what she's, and just tried to pander. Like, it would have been terrible. It would have been so pathetic.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that's one of the other things though, is it's one of those things where there aren't rules about you have to start at this age or whatever. Everyone can, you know, there's some careers that pop within 5 years, some careers that take 20 years.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just about grinding away. So you're heading to New York.
Yeah, in August.
Yeah.
Very soon.
The big move.
The Big Apple, yeah.
Yeah. It's not, I kind of object to them calling it the Big Apple, because in Australia, like
You have a big, if you call it a big thing, you got it.
Yeah, you go to the big banana. It's not a place. It's not a metaphor. There's just a really big banana somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Okay.
but so what's
They should
like,
call it the big city.
the big city? It is. Oh, here I am, New York, the big city. Then people know what to expect. You know, people rocking up.
So
thinking
you
they're
were
gonna see a Big
disappointed.
Apple.
You were.
It's like, man, this. Yeah, sure, the Empire State's kind of cool, but where's this
Where's
apple?
the apple?
So, but how, like, so what spurred that move?
I guess it's like more of the same thing of like wanting to develop more, like being around more gigs and more comics and stuff like that. Like, I think being in Australia, it can become like a pretty small pond in a way after you've been around for long enough and stuff. And
Well, you've sort of hit a level now where you can sell tickets. Really,
Yeah.
you've developed your audience.
yeah,
So, like, I suppose, I mean, a great place to get to where you've got your audience who come out
it's
to see
so
you.
nice. It's so sick.
But-
But I guess like towards the tail end of maybe last year or the year before, I was getting worried that like, because it's my own audience and I'm playing to them all the time and they're so supportive and nice, like you worry like, am I still funny or is it just like they like it already?
What a great insecurity to have.
Yeah.
But
It is just that.
But it's also admirable to have, like, because you see people who, I mean, if you don't have that awareness and that desire to keep developing yourself as a stand-up, then it'd be very easy just to keep playing to that audience and get very comfortable. So it's kind of admirable that you're going out. I was actually thinking about this earlier this morning when I was thinking about what we chat about, was that, because like a lot of my memories, those fond memories of hanging out with Wolfie and that day meeting, like all those things you look back on, it was when you were starting and it was all new.
Yeah.
You're almost getting to do that again a bit now. Like, you get to go have a new time where you're
create the new paths and stuff like that. A bit of friction as well.
Yeah, and have those weird experiences that you have when you're first starting out. But then I suppose the advantage is you've got the context of everything you've learnt over the last 12 years.
Yeah.
So it's not I don't know, like, you'll be able to.
It's not starting again.
No, it's not starting again. And there's nothing like, too, that I remember when Seren first moved to Sydney and I'd never seen him. So he's like this new guy, and all of a sudden he gets up, like, you think this is this new comic. And he gets up and he's really good. And you're like, man, where have you been? It's like, I've been doing it for
Melbourne.
5 years in Melbourne. You're like, okay, so that
You
makes
got to
sense.
keep moving.
Yeah.
Just to get that experience of like people being shocked.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, exactly. You've been the new toy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, where have you lined up housing? What's the story? Like,
Just got an Airbnb, but like I think moving to America is so complicated. Like it feels more complex than any other place because it's like everything is. I don't know. It's just like their way of doing things. It's like you got to get a credit score before you get your social security number or whatever, and then before you get a like bank account, and then you need all of that before you can rent a place.
oh,
So it's
shit.
like, yeah. So we're just moving into an Airbnb for a month, and then gonna try to find a place in that time, but might take like 3 months, is what we hear.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So have you got gigs lined up already, or are you just gonna land?
No, gonna land and figure it out. I might book a few in, but like nothing set in stone yet.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Sounds like a good adventure because you're recently married.
I am. Yeah,
So how's married life treating you, mate?
it's really good. It's yeah, it's fun. Do you enjoy it?
Yeah, man. I
How many years in are you?
dude, I am 15, so we'll
15,
be
wow.
16 in September.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
it's a dream.
Yeah, it's man, it's good. I get that it's not for everyone. I think it's the thing. The main key is like any relationship. If you're in with the right person, then it's fine. But I mean, it would be an absolute nightmare if you're married to the wrong person.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you'd got to work double time.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And I always feel sorry for the people. Like, I don't know about you, but like, I love coming home.
Yeah,
Like when I get to like a night at home or whatever, I cannot imagine like if home was somewhere you didn't want. You know, you see those people that are just like, oh man, he just doesn't want to go home. Like I'm like, oh,
yeah.
far out. I
Yeah.
hate that. That would be
Yeah.
miserable.
So
So outside
no, it's
comedy,
good.
yeah, you love it.
You come home and it's fun. Like
Yeah, and it's comfortable.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
that's where you feel like I don't know.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like I would talk about like do you drink at all? I don't know.
I drink very little and rarely because like I'm allergic to it
Oh, you're
or like
allergic to it?
intolerant.
Yeah, wow. That's I remember because that's one of my other memories of early on was when I remember doing the store with you. This is years ago now, but there was quite a few weekends where you'd be on and Chris Wainhouse would be on.
Yeah.
And you'd drive him to the gig
Yeah.
and then he'd take your drink tickets.
Yeah.
I remember him telling me he goes, I was just talking to him about how, he should be an atheist. And I'm like, you
Yeah.
can't take everything from him, Chris. Like,
Yeah, well, he lived in Hornsby and I lived in Asquith. So I would drive and pick him up along the way and drop him back off. But it's good to, I guess, if anything was gained, it was insights from a veteran comedian.
yeah.
Veteran in many ways.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's, man, he's funny too.
Yeah.
Like, proper funny comedian. So, yeah, I remember those days. Like, it was the two opposites. I remember talking to someone saying, it's like, I feel like Aaron's just literally got the devil in the car with him. Just,
Bert and Ernie.
Take his comedy advice. Don't take all his life advice.
Yeah. But yeah, that was good times. I learned to drive from doing comedy. Like, so my dad would be in the car, but that was when I was on my L's. So like,
Oh, really?
driving would get my hours up. Like Asquith to Glebe is like an hour and a bit and stuff.
Yeah. And that's the good. You get a combination of night driving, city driving.
Yeah.
you get all
You get
the types
everything,
of hours
all
up.
the elements.
Yeah. Especially, Asquith's it's a hike down into Glebe, and then so outside of comedy, what do you do? Like, are you got hobbies or are you? Because I just realised like that outside. It's funny because you deal with like hanging. I've known you 12 years now, but then the context is always comedy. So
Yeah.
what is in that 6 months? Like taking 6 months off. What's that look like for you?
I think live a very quiet life. I don't do much. I walk around. Like how I spend the days is I walk around. I hang out with friends if someone's about. I'm cooking. I'm cleaning.
Cooking?
Yeah, I cook.
What's your signature dish?
No signature. I just like whatever's about. I cook a lot of Chinese food and stuff like that. But yeah, just whatever. I got super into it in lockdown and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cook like low and slow, that type of thing. But,
Oh, nice.
But
What
yeah,
do you
now
do?
less so. Now more functional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like I during one of the lockdowns, I'd just recently got a smoker,
Oh yeah,
and that was
that's a big thing.
Oh,
That's like a
man.
major hobby
That
these
was
days.
Yeah. Well, there's heaps of people into it, but the
Yeah.
one I've got is it's a pellet smoker, so
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to. You're not having to tend fires or whatever.
Yeah,
can,
right.
You basically control the temperature from
Is
an
it
app.
like one of those egg things?
No, it's a Traeger, so it looks
Okay.
sort of like an offset.
Traeger.
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
Yeah. Well, you know Scott Detrick.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's big into them. He's got
Okay.
a Instagram.
Is that the Rogan one? The Traeger?
I don't know. To be honest, I haven't listened to Rogan in ages.
Yeah.
Not since he went over to Spotify.
Oh, you
Like,
hate
oh,
big
man,
business.
I'm not paying for.
Yeah. He sold out.
No. Oh man, if you can sell that for $100 million, good luck to you. Isn't that weird seeing? Like, I don't know. Sometimes I think that I worry that comedians shouldn't be as influential as some of the comedians are now.
Right.
Like not in a critical way of Rogan or whatever,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
just in a like, wow, is this really as a society? Are these like having hung out with comedians, knowing comedians? Like, you know, when people say to you, oh yeah, one of the things about comedians, you got to be really smart to be a comedian. I'm like, oh no, man, come hang out with some of us. No, you got to be really funny.
Yeah.
There's a range of
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know if the comedians should be informing
Yeah.
as the opinion that much. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I
You're
don't
scared
know
to
if
go
I
against
have.
Rogan because you're gonna
Yeah.
move to.
I don't know if I have any big thoughts about that. I mean, Zelensky did it. Zelensky was a comedian first, politician second. But
gone alright.
yeah, I mean, like these are not comedians are not educated people. They're scum of the earth.
Well, I've just got my clip for the week. No, it's. I mean, obviously, it's like a horses for courses thing, but I just do like I sometimes when it amazes me that people assume that there's more wisdom behind like. Because reality is with like even if it's tackling an issue, like the first responsibility that the comedian's going for is the laugh, not necessarily
The
a balanced
insight.
insight into an issue.
Yeah.
So your comedies
Has no insight.
has no insight. I don't know. There's a bit about you did. I think I've talked to you about it. And I don't know. I think it might be on your special a bit about having to fill out to prove you're not a robot.
Oh yeah.
So you have so that's an insight, but it's just not
It's day-to-day gripes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
day-to-day gripes. How do you? So is that how you write? Is it just like thinking about your day-to-day gripes, or is there something you try and aim for, or is it just what comes to you, what you've noticed?
Yeah, I guess it's all what comes to me. Like I've tried like sitting down and writing and stuff like that, but that doesn't really work unless I'm like working out something. But like I just like spend as much time like not plugged into stuff or just like going on walks without the phone and stuff like that. And normally stuff will come like that, like slowly.
Going on walks without the phone. That is such good advice.
Yeah.
I like that. And
Dan Rath says, never trust an idea you didn't come up with walking. I think he was quoting someone.
Really?
Yeah.
That's good advice. That's awesome. Yeah,
I forgot who was quoting.
There's a lot to be said for that, just walking and thinking. Like I remember
But how do you write? Do you sit down?
No, I can't. I'm similar. Like I walk around talking to myself. So, but it's the same thing. I've got like a note in my phone of things that just occur to me, and I'm like, there might be something there.
Yeah, it's the notes app.
Yeah, and then once I come into that, then I'll I literally walk around talking to myself. There's times where you'll see me walking the bush trails around here, talking to myself. People must think I'm a psycho.
Yeah.
But it generally means I'm trying to work out something for a show.
Are you known around here for
The-
being a comedian and stuff like that?
Not. The odd person, especially when we first moved here, when I was doing more on Fox, you get the odd footy
Yeah,
person.
yeah. So they'd be like, he's working stuff out. Like, don't leave him be.
Leave him there. Or, oh man, I remember I was jogging down a trail down over like on this fire trail, and it was like on a weekend, and there's people around.
Yeah.
And I remember one day I'd seen this guy. I'd seen him on a trail walk before.
Yeah.
And he'd said hi. And, oh, yeah, you're on Fox, so he'd recognise me from that. Anyway, so I was jogging and I saw him and his family coming the other way. And he gave me the, hey, Barney. And I was like, hey, mate. And then, but literally got about 8 steps past him and hit a rock and just axed myself so hard. I just like, you know when you hear the air come out of you, like that sound. I made that involuntary sound and I was just like, I'm not looking around. I'm just getting up and keeping running.
Yeah.
I was like, I had to go around a bend and I was bleeding.
Just everything broken.
Oh man.
But he still could run.
Yeah. Oh, it was so just like go from the high of the, oh, this guy's recognised me. I'm, that real cool, like nod. And then I couldn't.
Do you reckon they noticed?
Oh yeah. You couldn't have not noticed.
He's funny off screen as well.
Oh yeah. Look at him doing stunts. Pratfalls for us. Man, it was every time, and that I'm a special for that. Anytime I have that thing where I start to feel cool, I'm really good at just humbling myself.
That's awesome.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah,
with just doing something stupid.
Yeah.
So where do you walk? Like, is it park walks, city walks? Like, what are we like? Do you have a preference, or are you just gonna wander anywhere?
Wander anywhere, but it's like sometimes I find good routes at the moment it's a bit tough where I'm at, but so it'd just be like around the streets and stuff like that. But I don't know, like you live in the suburbs now.
Yeah.
I guess you grew up in like suburban / rural areas. I feel like you gravitate towards like how you grew up, and it's like I lived full suburban and now out of choice I'm living like pretty suburban as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I 100% get that. Like we only moved here like 4 years ago, and we were suburban, but like closer to railway station and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when we were,
where were you before?
we were at a place called East Hills. So
Still, is that in...
just sort of over in the edge of the Bankstown area.
Okay, cool.
And so we were we had a nice little house. It was our first house we'd bought. We could afford it. It was on a subdivided block, but it was this old fibro, and it just got to the point where it was getting too small for the boys. We're sharing a room, and that was just getting just to that point where it was too small. So we needed a bigger place, and then we loved that area, so we were looking there. But where for basically the price you could get a semi for there, just come 10 minutes across the bridge, and you can get it like a house. Yeah. So we were like, okay, well this is. And then, man, it was the best thing we'd ever done in lockdown because around
you got
here,
bush and stuff.
Yeah, so bushy. Like just take the dog for a walk.
Yeah,
get out on the trails. It just saved my sanity, but I think it saved the kids' sanity as well. Which is I tend to agree. Like a lot of people I know, like are like, oh man, I need to be near the water. I need to be near the beach or whatever. Yeah. Where I grew up on a river, I don't really.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the beach.
Yeah.
Like I love going to the beach, but it's just never something I've really needed to be near.
You're near beaches here.
Pardon?
You're near beaches.
Yeah. Oh, it's not a long drive to the beach here. Like
20?
Depending on traffic, it might stretch out if you on a weekend day. Yeah. And depending which beach you're going to, but it can stretch out. But yeah, it's 20 to half an hour. Yeah. Which, man, when I was a kid. Right. It was that to go to. It was 45 minutes into Albury to go get Macca's or go see a movie. You know what I mean? So it wasn't. That's not really a big deal. Yeah. And if you told me as a kid that I'd be, within half an hour of a beach
or 10 minutes of a Macca's.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh man, I can walk to a KFC from here. It's amazing.
That's so good. Me too.
Yeah. But that was growing up there, like I just it's. You're right. I think you gravitate to sort of that
Maybe, yeah.
because I do like the quiet
Mm-hmm.
of here in some ways where you can
Yeah.
can go out and just be not near anyone
Yeah.
for a bit, which I think's good, and good for, like you said, good for thinking, good for like writing. So do you write anything down, or you just work it out and then? Because what I'll do is everything gets dot pointed more than anything.
Yeah. I write it out because all my bits are pretty short. Like if I think of something, I'll type it out word for word on the Notes app, and then I'll put it on a Google Docs. I used to free write a little bit, just by
old
hand
school.
in a journal for 3 pages, but never came up with anything like that. Yeah,
I remember that. I did a comedy course
yeah.
when
Dante D1.
No, I did. Although he did advertise me as one of his graduates for a while, which I don't know who he thought he was attracting with that as an advertisement. But
That's funny.
I did. Simon Palomares, who was a Melbourne comedian, came up and did a workshop, like a 2-day workshop, I think,
Yeah.
It was through the Roxbury.
Yeah,
And I went and did that. And one of the things he did is he made us all just sit and just write. Just
Yeah.
start writing whatever comes into your head. And same thing, I look back at it and I was like, oh, it's there might be something in there, but I don't know. It just didn't,
Yeah.
it's not something I can
I think it's good
do.
for freeing up
Yeah.
the
Yeah, I think
space
so.
in your brain or whatever.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that might be. But yeah, it's just not how really it works for me. But
Yeah.
all right, we're getting towards the end. A couple of more
Right.
questions to
Yeah.
ask you. If you weren't doing this,
Uh-huh.
what would you? Did you do uni? Did you go to uni?
For a year and a half.
What were you studying?
I was studying an arts degree.
Arts,
Yeah.
one
I
of
was
the
just
most
doing
useful.
uni to
Yeah.
do uni.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the arts degree. I love stuff like that, learning and whatnot. Yeah.
So uni's an expensive way to kill time if you're
Yeah.
not looking you don't have a plan at the end of it.
Yeah.
So but what if you weren't doing stand up comedy?
Yeah.
What would it be? When you have those days where you're like, man, this is tough. I should have become what is that fantasy other job? Or you just never second guess yourself?
Yeah, I rarely do I feel like I'm not in the right thing, but sometimes I think about other things, I'd love to do a trade or something like that if I wasn't doing or even cooking or something like that. But I couldn't do it. I know I couldn't do it, but
mate,
that's the fantasy.
They're renovating down the road here, and every day I jog past and go, that must be satisfying to go. We had half the roof put up at the start of the day. Now the full roof's put up. There's something tangible they're walking away from. But I'm like you, I'm hopeless with all that stuff.
I'm bad. I can't do stuff with my hands. I'm not organized. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. So if you had to do a trade, would you do a chef's or a...
Yeah. I would like it just because I like the culture, but that's it.
Yeah.
I could I don't know, something else practical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that I feel the exact same way, that, drawn towards that practical thing that I'm actually not practically capable of doing.
I think Crookshank, he does he's a sparky and he's a comedian, but I think he loves both.
Yeah.
He seems like he does. Yeah.
I've talked to him about that too. He genuinely, because I feel like he could choose between them. But I think, I don't know. I think that being, having that useful, tangible thing would be somewhat fulfilling as opposed to this. I often said if I did a trade, I'd love to do I'd be a butcher.
Yeah.
That's one of my things, and then
that's cool.
My
Cameron Duggan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, but my wife always says to me, if I was a butcher, I'd be missing fingers and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just too absent-minded. So I'll cut myself fairly
So that's
quickly.
what you would do, butcher.
I think I would.
Yeah.
But, a bit late now. I'm sort of committed to this now.
Would you ever go back to the old job?
No. Done and dusted.
Too hard?
No, just did everything I wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You do... Well, you get to a point where you're Like, I think in most jobs, what appeals to me most about this is you're never really finished. Like, you're never really like
Yeah.
like there's always the next puzzle to solve. Where I think doesn't matter what, some with other jobs, a lot of the time it's like, okay, once you like looking at these blokes, once you put 10 roofs on, how different a roof's going to be.
Yeah, that's true. Do you feel like so you feel like you could do comedy forever? There's no.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
I like it's my big thing. I usually use great advice that Tahir gave me one time. He said his career, he goes, some people worry about, is this good for my career? Is that bad? He goes, my biggest thing is, okay, he goes, yeah, some are jobs you do for money, some jobs you do for whatever. But he goes, my biggest deciding factor is, does that look like it'll be fun?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then you look at all the stuff he does, that makes perfect sense of how he does. Like, and he always seems happy. He's always got that real positive attitude. I'm like, that's a good way to approach it.
You got to do it for the joy of it, for sure.
Yeah, because otherwise, I mean, yeah, like it's a hard industry to,
for sure,
to get through. Like I imagine a lot of industries, but if you're not enjoying the process, then you're sitting waiting for an outcome that may not happen.
I went to a Bulldogs game and he was doing halftime there.
Oh,
and I was like, that's a big crowd.
Oh man, he does
every week.
He does the Kings too, the Sydney Kings.
Oh, does he?
Yeah,
nice.
Man, he's great. Is that your rugby league team, Bulldogs?
It is now, since I moved to Campsie and like I'm 10 minutes from the stadium.
Nice.
Yeah, but they never play there.
No, I think they play like 1 or 2 games max each season.
Yeah.
They should play more because that's such a great.
They train there though. I walk past. It feels like surreal because I'm like a soccer guy, like football.
Yeah.
But you never dream of seeing the best players in the world like
just
near your house or like yeah. But in rugby league, like,
which is it, and there's genuinely some of the best players in the world in that. Like Josh Adokar, there's he's a high level player,
good fighter.
Yeah, but you'll see him and you would say, and especially there, like that's a proper suburban ground. Like it's not, it's the facilities are good, but it's not like, some grand stadium where you've got to, wander in. You can just be on the train and peer in as you drive, as you go past. So, so you're so soccer's your thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was one of your first TV things with the soccer.
Yeah.
How was that? Like, so you did some crowd, like you're in the crowd at a Socceroos match doing Vox Pops sort of thing.
Sydney FC and Liverpool.
And, that was it.
Traveling. Yeah.
So that got an online pop. How was that? Was that mostly positive, or did you get some?
It was mostly negative, but a positive for me. Like I was not fazed by it because it's such a niche thing. Like the only people offended were Australian football fans and their own subculture, and it's like why they're defending it, but because it's like soccer's like the fourth or fifth sport in Australia, and they're like it should be number one. And it's like fair enough. Like I see where you're coming from, but it doesn't hurt me because I know like you actually did nothing wrong. But it's funny that they're so offended. So it's like.
I feel like that if like you're not wrong in that if that was same thing but rugby league or whatever, people wouldn't have been offended at all.
Yeah. Because they're secure.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's that's such a funny observation. I remember that I just remember thinking that was very funny.
Yeah. It was fun. It was a whole exciting world for a couple of days, and then
and then life moves on as it tends to do.
I think a lot of the soccer fans have turned around on it. They're like, it's
with a bit of context and time. Like
for sure.
It didn't end soccer in Australia, so
no.
Now you can just sit back and laugh at it. Mate, thanks very much for doing this. Before we go, we're sort of at about time. I won't hold you up too much longer. Before we go, where can people find you online, or you've got your special on YouTube?
Just the special. It's called if weren't filmed, nobody would believe, and that's on YouTube.com.
That's a, what is the name?
The name is based on, I've been on YouTube and like sometimes I get fed videos made by I think Indian or Middle Eastern guys, and it's just a compilation of crazy things that happen, and it's such a powerful name in my mind.
It is very clickbaity, but
Yeah.
but it's such a clickbaity name for a stand-up special that's not clickbaity at all, which is very funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can find that on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And socials. Do you get on?
Rarely on them, but I do have socials. But
So where can they find you if they are interested?
if you're interested, on Instagram, Chenny Lifestyle.
Chenny Lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, to feel that lifestyle. I do admire because you're like, what are you, 28?
8,
28.
yeah, almost.
So yeah,
Yeah.
for someone of like, because you grew up in the social media age,
Yeah.
so you just seem to not have any real care. Like you obviously use it for work, whatever, but you're not.
My life
dependent
was
on it.
ruined by the internet, so
Your
I
life
was the
was
first generation to be burnt by social media.
Is there a personal story behind that, or just
No, it's
in
just
general?
getting like it's so addictive and stuff like that. So don't
Man.
have to get off it.
You seem remarkably well adjusted for a comedian. It amazes me. Mate, thank you so much
Thanks
for
for
doing
having
this.
me. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Yeah.